It's Championship Saturday here on Long Island for the New York Catholic League. And these Xavier Knights are playing their best football this 2018 season. Today they'll take on a team looking for its 22nd straight win, the Red Hot Firebirds of Kellenberg. This is News 12 Varsity's Game of the Week, the 2018 Catholic League AA Championship game, as the Knights of Xavier take on the Kellenberg Firebirds. And today's 2018 Championship Tilt is brought to you by Sloman's Shield. Shield your home with the Sloman Shield. Call 1-800-ALARM-ME. Hello again, everyone. Lou Brogno with you on the call alongside David Resnick. We welcome you to cold, windy as always, Mitchell Field here on Long Island for this championship game. Interesting AA championship tilt. Xavier coming in, as we said, playing their best football of the season, pitching 2 straight shutouts, taking on the Firebirds of Kellenberg. And this is a team, as we said, looking for their 22nd straight win.
On the heels of their first undefeated season and a championship year in 2017, Kellenberg returning a lot of firepower on both sides of the ball. They have certainly lived up to the expectations, but Xavier, they are known as underdogs. They relish that role. Their defense is playing tremendously. Do they have enough to stop the Firebirds today?
Well, we're all in for a treat today as Xavier runs an ancient offense, if you will, on the field. They run the single wing, but they'll be missing one of the key components of that single wing offense in Daniel Vidaberga, and they're going to have to pick up the slack today with Matt Giruso.
Well, this offense and this formation would make Pop Warner proud. And if there is a team and there's a unit that can overcome the loss of their top rusher, it could be this Xavier unit. Matthew Giruso, who plays the 3-back spot, he's a fullback. He'll be expected to carry the ball a bit more. For Xavier, it's going to have to be a team effort today if they're going to make up of the loss of a 1,000-yard rusher.
Well, Kellenberg features one of the truly electrifying quarterbacks here in the tri-state area. Matt Sluka has amassed over 2,000 yards of total offense this year.
So how does he follow up a junior season in which he's first team all Long Island? Well, he has a senior campaign which includes a win over a AAA school in Kellenberg. Matthew Sluka, the definition of a dual threat, last year's most outstanding offensive player in last year's championship game with 6 touchdowns. Does he have another performance like that in store today?
Well, Kellenberg got the better of Xavier earlier this season, but much more on the line today. It's a AA championship. Xavier and Kellenberg, the opening kickoff just moments away here on News 12 Varsity's Game of the Week. Welcome back to Mitchell Field. Xavier and Kellenberg getting ready to go in this AA championship game. Lou Brogno, David Resnick, and of course the third member of our broadcast team, Amanda Puglisi, who's down on those chilly sidelines. Amanda?
Lou, it is definitely chilly, definitely windy, but you and David were talking about the defense of Xavier. But don't forget, sure, they're playing their best football now, but when they first played Kellenberg earlier in the year, they gave up 47 points. Now, this coaching staff is not too worried because they said, look, we had a new defensive coordinator come in. He was still trying to get his sea legs ready, but we're so confident because our defense returned 8 starters from last year. Now, unlike Xavier, Kellenberg had no early season hiccups, and their coaching staff says, listen, when you return a lot of players and you return a lot of starters like we did from last year's championship team, when you come into camp and when you come into the season, there are no question marks. It's, hey, this is what we're going to run, and we're going to run it well.
And that Xavier defense has been playing outstanding football. They've pitched 2 straight shutouts here in the playoffs. And they'll need a big defensive effort today against this explosive Kellenberg attack. Kellenberg kicking off, though, right to left on your screen. And it's a short kick, and right at the outset, there's a whistle. The ball might have come off the tee. It is very windy and a strong wind blowing left to right on your screen. So if you're going against that wind, it's going to be tough. And Kellenberg, of course, is kicking against that wind. There you can see the results of that stiff breeze. And Kellenberg kicks it off. Kyle Sharkey keeps it on the ground. And Xavier, there's a loose ball at the 35-yard line. It looks like the Knights fell on top of it, although Kellenberg says they've got it, and they do. So right at the outset, the Firebirds come up with a turnover on the opening kickoff, and Kellenberg has the football in Xavier territory at the 36-yard line. So a tough start for the Knights, and now the Firebirds in attack mode. 1st and 10, Kellenberg at the Xavier 36. Matt Sluka is the Kellenberg quarterback, 6'3", senior, 205. Keeps it himself, breaks a tackle, breaks another, breaks into the open. He's at the 20, the 10, touchdown Kellenberg. What a start for the Firebirds. Matt Sluka with his 21st rushing touchdown of the season, and Kellenberg breaks on top just 16 seconds into the first quarter.
It's as if we're just continuing last year's championship game where Kellenberg took down Fordham Prep and Matthew Sluka rushed for 5 touchdowns. Dominant last year against the Rams, and starting against the Knights the way that he's produced the entire season, a talented dual threat quarterback finding his way to the end zone from 36 yards out. And after recovering a fumble on the opening kick, why not call a play for number 10, who breaks through tackles and then into the open field. He can glide his way into the end zone, and Matthew Sluka, the reigning CHSFL Offensive Player of the Year, has put up numbers once again. This is just what he's done as a thrower. 11 touchdowns through the air and a 1,000-yard season.
68% completion percentage, and on the ground, David, 1,022 yards rushing coming in, and now, as we said, getting his 21st rushing touchdown. He is the real deal at quarterback. Another bounding ball off the kickoff, and Xavier brings it up across the 40, and the Knights have good field position to begin their first drive of the game.
Just want to correct something that I said earlier in terms of Kellenberg and their resume this season. The AAA team that they beat was not Kellenberg, but Chaminade, as they faced a fellow Nassau County school, a team that they compete against in other sports. It was a non-league game this year, and if you needed to know how good and talented this AA Kellenberg team is, well, they went out and on the road beat a AAA school.
So here comes Xavier to the line of scrimmage, running this unusual offense. It's a single wing offense, and Demetriadis carries the football for the Knights, and he's hit behind the line of scrimmage and dropped. He loses 2 yards. Kellenberg's assignment today is just that, assignment football. That's how you've got to attack this unusual offense. A lot of misdirection, a lot of options for Xavier running the football. It's a direct snap to a running back, and then there's several things that they can do. They'll shift around. Very unusual offensive alignment on the line as well, which we'll talk about. And here's a run by Anthony Bruno, who picks up a couple, takes it up across the 45.
And so while Matt Geruso is the leading rusher still active for Xavier, it's actually Anthony Bruno, who might have started the season as the 4th string 2-back or tailback, the player that primarily, along with the fullback, will take the shotgun snap. He had 84 yards and a touchdown, the only score for Xavier last week against Holy Trinity. So he'll be really called upon in a big way today.
3rd and 5 for the Knights. And they find a hole, a little bit of a hole on the left side, carried up to the 50-yard line, and they will be short of first down yardage. It was Matt Geruso on the carry. It'll bring up a 4th down and 2. And you have a Kellenberg player shaken up back at the 42-yard line. Kellenberg striking first. They have a 7-0 lead. We're just a little over 2 minutes gone by in this Catholic League AA championship game. Glad you could join us on this Saturday afternoon. It is cold and windy, as it usually is here at Mitchell Field. But you wouldn't expect it any other way for a championship game here in mid-November. Well, Xavier coming in at 7-3 on the year, and the Knights' losses this year to Kellenberg earlier this season, 47-14. More Catholic, 38-14. And Holy Trinity on October 13th, 29-28. That's the last loss for this Knights team. They've reeled off 4 straight wins.
And they beat Holy Trinity in the rematch, and that is cause for hope for Xavier as they face Kellenberg for the second time, coming off of 3 straight shutouts.
And the run this time by Anthony Bruno, it looks like he will be short of first down yardage. He had to get to the 48. He is close. They may measure here to see if he picked it up. Gives us an opportunity to talk about Xavier's offensive line. They run an unbalanced line. So 2 players to the left side of the center, a tight end, a guard, and then the center, then a guard and 2 tackles and another tight end. So a very unusual alignment. They did pick up enough to get the first down. So that's a big play for Xavier as they keep this drive alive now, and they're in Kellenberg territory at the 48.
And part of the defensive calculation for the Knights is ball control offense. Kellenberg scored on a 1-play drive of 36 yards. Matt Sluka for the touchdown. This offense needs to hold on to the ball.
And trying to get outside is Bruno, and he is wrestled down to the ground at the 45-yard line. Nice play by Pete Tallarico, the corner. Senior coming up to make the play.
Nice job on the edge. Anthony Bruno, who we mentioned, is filling in for Wittenberger today, trying to stretch the defense to the outside in a great open field tackle to limit that run to just 2.
Pete Talarcio on the tackle, the senior, and he made an outstanding play. Good read, had it read all the way, and a short pickup on second down. Sets up a third down for Xavier. They're inside the 45 at the 43-yard line. 7-0 Kellenberg, 8 minutes, 25 seconds remaining here in the first quarter of this 2018 championship game. Xavier in the playoffs with wins over Xaverian 27-0. Holy Trinity last week 7-0. And again, in case you're just joining us, they're playing without their outstanding running back Dan Wittenberger. Penalty flag flies. And it's offside against Kellenberg. And that may deliver another Xavier first down, and it does. Moves the ball down to the 38. That's a first down for the Knights.
There's a look at Frank Bernie. He is the power back or the quarterback, and traditionally a quarterback takes the snap. Bernie is actually off center. He's in the backfield. He doesn't receive the snap, but you see there, he's calling the cadence for the ball to be snapped.
And the snap this time goes to Geruso, who's ridden down at the line of scrimmage. He picks up about 2 or 3 with a positive effort moving forward.
And after the play, Bernie will go over to the head coach, Chris Stevens, for the next play, as Stevens is calling the offense and looking to the sideline to make sure the right personnel is in. And now he's actually going to call upon Anthony Bruno to come in for Robert Donaldson. And what was interesting, speaking with Chris Stevens, he said, losing a running back, losing a 2-back, whatever. It's obviously a big deal. He said, if I lost my quarterback, if I lost my power back, that's when we'd really be talking about struggling, moving on, and making a replacement.
Ball loose on the ground, and Xavier fortunate to fall on top of it. It'll bring up a second down play.
So it's just interesting, again, speaking of this offense that originated at Princeton and has a Pop Warner feel and an old school feel, your quarterback is getting the play. He's telling his teammates what the play is. He's calling for the snap and cadence, but not handling the ball from the center, who's lined up off balance.
It's actually 3rd and 9 here for Xavier. And again, big amount of yardage to get here for the Knights. So they'll call timeout and talk about it. Well, last week, Xavier took on Holy Trinity, and as we said, they bounced back after losing to Holy Trinity earlier this year by 1 point.
They had to go on the road, and they won with timely defense and only needing 1 score. But so much about Xavier is their talk of offense, and understandably so, because it's something that you're not used to seeing. But their defense is really sturdy. This is Demetriadis going down the sideline and picking up a road victory as Anthony Bruno filling in for Wittenberger, scoring the touchdown for Xavier. A 7-0 victory on the road against the number 2 seed, a Holy Trinity squad that finished just behind Kellenberg in the standings to advance to play the Firebirds in this championship game.
Anthony Bruno starting last week at 80 yards rushing for the Knights. 3rd down and about 8, we'll call it here, for Xavier. And trying to get outside now is Matt Girusso, but nowhere to go as Kellenberg plays it very well along the line of scrimmage. Nice play there by Paul McGinnis, senior defensive end.
Even the shifting by the Xavier offensive line to move the strong side of the formation from one side of the center to the other is unique looking, and it's certainly a struggle for this Kellenberg defensive front. Typically more of a 4-4 look. You see how they're lining up with 5 along the defensive line to try to counter the 7 players for Xavier close to the football on the line of scrimmage.
5:35 left in the first. 7-0 Kellenberg scoring on the first play from scrimmage. Now Girusso looking to throw, and it's incomplete. That is a rare occurrence for this Xavier offense. They rarely throw, but on a 4th down and long, they're trying to pick up that 1st down, and Kellenberg will take over on downs.
Yes, an aerial attack, and different from a quarterback that's going to throw the overwhelming majority of your pass attempts, whether it's the 2-back, the tailback, the 3-back, the fullback. These are all players capable of throwing. And Lou, is it going to be a straight rollout? Will it be a handoff and misdirection? That's what you have to prepare for if you're a secondary of the opposition.
Nice play by Tyler Sealer to break that up. And then trying to come around is DeLucia, who gets a block. Jordan DeLucia, leading ground gainer for Kellenberg, a junior with over 1,200 yards rushing and 18 touchdowns on the year for the Firebirds.
You know, Lou, that drive for Xavier, they only picked up 17 yards of real estate, but it was a drive of 6 minutes. Trying to shorten the game is definitely part of the strategy for Xavier today.
2nd down, 5. Here is Sluka, and he's hit behind the line of scrimmage, and his forward progress stopped. Good penetration that time by Xavier. As they get in there, John Walsh was in there, senior defensive end. And Valerie Guardiak, the senior linebacker, in on the play as well. So it brings up a 3rd and 5 from the 40-yard line. Kellenberg, their 2nd offensive possession here in this 1st quarter. Sluka back to throw. Now he gets away from pressure, pulls it down, turns the corner, takes it up the sideline, stays in bounds, and drives all the way across the Xavier 35-yard line. Terrific run by Sluka, a talented runner.
It's not just making something out of nothing. It's making the ability to just huge plays, to cut up the field, not looking to go out of bounds, wanting more. And Sluka, first team All Long Island as a junior, CHSFL Offensive Player of the Year. He has come back in a senior season with outstanding numbers once again.
1st and 10. DeLucia trying to get outside, turns the corner, cuts it outside across the 25 and inside the 25-yard line, and a big gainer on 1st down for Jordan DeLucia.
You know, a lot is talked about a sophomore slump. Well, as a high school athlete, a lot of times you only have a couple of seasons, a couple of opportunities, and to know that he wasn't sneaking up on anybody. And last year he didn't, but especially this year, coming back after that type of season, to then produce, Lou, similar numbers as Kellenberg. 2 years ago, they were 1-8. Then they go 11-0, and now they're 3.5 quarters away from duplicating that mark and winning 22 straight.
1st and 10. Football to 21. And Sluka keeps it himself, follows his blockers, and barrels his way down near the 15-yard line. Matt Sluka, we talked about all his numbers, but head coach Chris Stevens of Xavier said, quote, "He's the best quarterback I've ever had to coach against." That's some pretty high praise.
He talked about his elusiveness, his savvy, and also an underrated arm that we haven't seen yet. Let's see if he could push it down the field in this wind.
And he looks to throw, steps up, fires as a man wide open at the 5, in for the touchdown. Actually it's Dan Wilson, the tight end, number 88. Wilson was wide open, and he just barreled right into the end zone for Kellenberg's 2nd score here in this 1st quarter. Kyle Sharkey in to kick the extra point. 2 possessions for Kellenberg and 2 touchdowns, and the extra point kick is up and good. 3:03 remaining here in the 1st quarter, and a great start for the Firebirds. They're up 14-0.
We were just talking about a cannon of an arm for Matthew Sluka, but we also talked about his savvy and his intellect, understanding what he was going to see and finding Wilson in a soft spot in the zone and not rocketing it in there, putting the proper touch and allowing Wilson to take care of the rest. And Dan Wilson, who is a stalwart on defense at middle linebacker, also has the capability of helping this offense. That's a timely catch and a feel-good moment for a senior that does all of the little things right when he's in there as an H-back or tight end.
So Kellenberg coming in undefeated 10-0, off to a great start here, looking for their 22nd straight win. They haven't lost a game since 2016. Another short kick here. And again, Kellenberg keeping it on the ground. So Xavier brings it up across the 35, and that's where the Knights will put it in play. Langston Williams on the return there for Xavier.
You know what's kind of funny, Lou? I'm not sure if we share similar humor, so I don't know if you'll find it funny.
Give me a try.
21 wins in a row, okay, for Kellenberg. 3rd best in New York State. It's not even the longest active winning streak in Nassau County, let alone Long Island. In fact, we're basically in Garden City, the Trojans of Garden City, working on 34 wins in a row. They play for 35 just across the way at Hofstra today in the Conference 2 championship.
Looking to get outside for Xavier is Anthony Bruno. And it's a short pickup on the play. Again, Kellenberg doing a nice job. Simon football defensively. You have a Kellenberg player shaken up near midfield. Yeah, it stops the clock with 2:37 remaining. The player shaking up, Steve McAllister, senior linebacker. And while we have an opportunity, I want to say hello to all those who are watching on Facebook Live this afternoon. Glad you could join us. Send us your thoughts on the game via Facebook Live. We'd like to hear from you.
So I don't know if you found that funny, but Like, it was humorous for me, thinking, wow, 21 wins in a row. This is going to be the longest win streak maybe in the state or the area or at least our county. None of the above.
But Kellenberg will take it.
There's no reason not to.
They've been playing magnificent football over the last year and a half. And handoff goes up the middle. It's actually not a handoff, but a direct snap as Matt Giarrusso carries up the middle. It's funny, you're talking to Coach Stevens on the phone yesterday, David, and I mentioned to him, we've been doing high school football for a long time. I've been covering games for over 35 years. I haven't done a single wing football game since the early 1980s. A little tough to get used to out there.
They've been running this system since 2007, and you could book a Thanksgiving date with Xavier and Fordham Prep every year if you want to see it see it again.
And again, Giarrusso takes it himself. He's got running room this time and takes it up across the 45 to the 47-yard line. So nice run that time by Giarrusso as he hit the corner. And he brings up a 4th down and about 1. Now remember, Xavier had a 4th and 2 earlier and went for it. So you got to think they'll do the same here in their own territory, though, at the 46-yard line. Approaching the final minute of play in quarter number 1. This is the AA championship game. Of course, the AAA final coming up later on today as well. And we'll have that for you as Stepanak takes on Cardinal Hayes. Looking forward to that game. It should be a terrific matchup. Movement on the line of scrimmage, and let's see, Kellenberg might have come across. They did. That'll be offside against the Firebirds, and that will give Xavier a 1st down.
That shifting at the line is always something in the Knights' back pocket, that long snap count and the delay, where it definitely has to factor into your decision if you're going to go for it on 4th and less than 5, knowing that not only could you pick it up via penalty, but then also by running a play from scrimmage as well.
And a whistle and flags fly on this 1st down play. And again, the call goes against Kellenberg. So it'll be 1st and 5 for Xavier. The Knights in Kellenberg territory at the 44. Giarrusso keeps it himself, cuts it back in, and takes it down near the 40-yard line. Nice run that time again by Giarrusso. And he's very close to another Xavier 1st down. And that is the end of the 1st quarter. So Kellenberg, with that explosive offense, striking at the very outset. They pick up a touchdown on the first play from scrimmage. That's Sluka with the big run, and they're off and running are the Firebirds. They lead it by the score of 14-0 here on News 12 Varsity's Game of the Week.
Xavier is in the championship game for the first time since 2015, where they took down Christ the King in an absolutely spectacular championship game. Ahmed Fernandez, a 22-yard spectacular run to take the lead, but then Michael Churovano with his 3rd touchdown of the game. Xavier went up by 1, then Christ the King had the answer. And how about special teams to the rescue? Roy Kinsella with the block, Jack Abruzzi with the scoop and score, and the 28-25 victory for Xavier, taking down Christ the King 3 years ago.
And head coach Chris Stevens looking on as his Xavier team picks up a big run on the first play from scrimmage here in this second quarter. It's a first down for the Knights at the Kellenberg 27-yard line. So Xavier moving the football. They are down 14-0 here in this 2018 AA championship game. Matt Girusso with the carry, and he's hit behind the line of scrimmage and dropped. It'll bring up a second down. Second down and 12. And a reminder, News 12 Varsity's Game of the Week is brought to you by Sloman's Shield. Shield your home with the Sloman Shield. Call 1-800-ALARM-ME. Second down and 12 for the Knights. And a lot of shifting as the entire offensive line moves to the left. They go off tackle, does Matt Girusso, and a short pickup. Takes it down to the 25-yard line.
Yeah, it's very specific. The wing back lines up on the strong side. So if the line is going to shift, so too does the four-back. And this is a look, as we detailed in the first quarter, of Frank Burney. He's the power back or the quarterback. He's the player that's going to the sideline to get the play, relays it to his teammates, and then settles right behind one of the guards to call the cadence, but it's snapped back to either the tailback or the fullback.
Again, complete shift by the Xavier offense on a third down play. Third down and about 7. And carrying the football, Rob Donaldson. Actually, it was Girusso who kept it. Good fake by Girusso because he completely faked me out. McGinnis made the tackle.
You know, we have an excuse. We're so far away from the play. We're not on the line. We're out of the elements.
All right, I'll buy that, Dick.
Was that enough?
Here's Girusso with a nice move. Again, he cut back against the grain and picked up good yardage. So another big fourth down coming up here for Xavier as they try to keep this drive alive now. They've moved it to the Kellenberg 22-yard line.
But it's about deception and misdirection and fakes. It's all ingrained in the offense.
Fourth down play, and a little bit too much movement that time by the Knights. Well, actually, the call goes against Kellenberg.
Encroachment is called against the defense. Kevin Hannafin, who recently picked up his 100th career win. In fact, both coaches reaching that mark this season, does not agree with the call. 23rd year as head coach, 3 decades in the program, and he thought there was offensive movement in the backfield that drew his Firebirds offside.
Even Xavier thought there was offensive movement. Their reaction was that it was against them, but they get a big break. It's a first down now for the Knights. First down at the 16-yard line. They're driving down 14-0. A score here puts them right back in the game, and a nice spinning move that time by Anthony Bruno as he barrels inside the 15. So Xavier getting it done on the ground, despite the fact, as we said earlier, that Dan Vitteberger, their leading rusher, is not in the game. Now, Vitteberger has 1,141 yards rushing and 20 touchdowns. But he is not in there today, was not cleared due to an injury. But they're doing a nice job with Girusso and Bruno picking up the slack here. It brings up a second down play for Xavier. Second down and about 7. This is Bruno. Anthony Bruno takes it inside the 10 and into the end zone. Touchdown, Xavier. There's a penalty flag down. So for the moment, Xavier is celebrating a touchdown, but let's see what the flag is all about. And it looks like they're still celebrating. Let's see. Grabbing the face mask the call against Kellenberg. So the penalty, of course, is declined. Xavier's got a touchdown. And in to kick the extra point, Christian Korchma. The senior trying to draw the Knights to within 7. That's a huge drive for Xavier. They're right back in the game, down 14-6 at the moment.
And Anthony Bruno in consecutive weeks providing the offense for the Knights. Stepping into a role vacated by Daniel Vitaburga.
Kellenberg with a big play on special teams comes crashing in to deflect and block the kick. So we'll see if that becomes a factor as we move along. It's 14-6.
Touchdowns in back-to-back weeks for that man, Anthony Bruno, taking the direct snap as the two-back and spinning his way into the end zone. They started the season with Evan Murphy and Daniel Vitaburga as the top two tailbacks. Matthew Geruso might have even been number 3, even though he's the starting 3-back. 4th spot, Anthony Bruno. And it just speaks to perseverance and staying with it, never knowing when you're going to get your opportunity. Well, Anthony Bruno, the junior, has gotten the opportunity the last 2 weeks, and he has scored the Knights' only touchdowns in the semifinal and now the final.
Well, you know, it's funny talking to Coach Chris Stevens last night. He said, we don't have any problems finding outstanding running backs at Xavier. We have a tremendous rugby program, and a lot of those kids, they can run. And they certainly have done that here in this first half. Looked like Kellenberg got off to that great start, scoring the touchdown on the first play from scrimmage, and then scored on their second offensive possession as well. But Xavier has fought back.
And it's really just the nature of the offense. You're going to be asked to run. You're going to be asked to block. Some of these backs can also throw. You mentioned how Xavier has a great rugby program in the spring, and a lot of those players playing both sports.
Ball bounces, ball's loose on the ground and then rolls out of bounds at the 27-yard line. Kellenberg gets a break as the fumble went out of bounds. So the Firebirds will retain possession.
That last drive for Xavier that went for a touchdown, they held the ball for better than 7 minutes. And so we mentioned ball control, and when you could methodically move down the field and tack on a touchdown at the end of it, it's really the best of both worlds and a score that the Knights desperately needed.
1st and 10 for the Firebirds. At the 29-yard line, Sluka keeps it himself, breaks one tackle, and cannot get away from the remainder of the Xavier defense. So the Knights do a nice job at the line of scrimmage, and then coming in to finally make the play, Milton Guzman, senior defensive tackle, who's had a terrific year this season. He has 11 tackles behind the line of scrimmage and 3 sacks on that defensive line for the Knights. 7:05 left here in the first half. And Kellenberg with a 14-6 lead. Firebirds coming in 10-0. Their playoff run so far has delivered victories over St. Peter's of Staten Island 48-14. Fordham Prep 47-20. This team has been scoring a lot of points. Luca trying to throw the ball. It fell out of his hand as he went back to throw it. Now he gets away and will finally be brought down at the 22-yard line. That would have been a fumble. Sluka was bringing his arm back to throw, and the ball just slipped out of his hand.
Phantom fumble. I mean, how many dropbacks has Matt Sluka made over the course of his high school career, and just kind of slipped out?
So again, Kellenberg fortunate to get it back.
And remember, Frankie Roeder fumbled the return and it bounced out of bounds. And so Kellenberg a couple of times on this possession alone, either recovering or maintaining possession after a fumble.
Sluka in trouble. Lots of pressure. He just has to throw it away. And now a flag comes out. And it's intentional grounding, the call against Sluka. That'll be a loss of down. So a tough offensive possession that time by the Firebirds, as that Xavier defense really applied the pressure.
So the Knights follow up an offensive touchdown with a defensive stand in which Kellenberg lost 19 yards on 3 plays.
It is now 4th and 28. So Kellenberg has to punt it out of their own end zone, and Sluka is the punter. He steps into it. He's kicking with the wind, gets a good roll, and it goes out of bounds. All things considered, pretty good kick there for Kellenberg. And Xavier will take over at the 40-yard line, down by just 1 score with 5:32 remaining here in the first half.
Knights defense, prior to this contest, they did not allow a touchdown in 3 straight games. Matt Sluka changed that on the first play of scrimmage against Chris Stevens' defense. But the Knights showing some fight, settling in, scoring a touchdown, moving down the field 60 or better than 60 yards over 7+ minutes, coming up with the stop, and now an offense that showed some momentum is back out there.
This is Bruno, keeps it himself, fumble, football loose at the 40, and Kellenberg has recovered. So Xavier puts the ball on the ground, and the Firebirds are set up now in Xavier territory.
Jake Deacon rocked Anthony Bruno to knock the ball free, and then the Firebirds, who picked up 2 fumbles offensively, come away with this football. It was a timely hit. Paul McGinnis, who's seeing more time today as a linebacker, especially with Stephen McAllister dealing with an injury that he suffered earlier this game, and also getting a little bit extra size and strength against the running attack of Xavier, makes a big play there in his senior campaign. So a fumble on the opening kick led to 7 points for Kellenberg. Let's see if the Firebirds can take advantage of this sudden change.
On a first down play, Sluka keeps it himself and carries down near the 35. He's powered his way up the middle as he picks up about 4 yards on that carry. Brings up a 2nd and 6. Approaching 5 minutes left in the first half. Firebirds trying to take advantage of this Xavier turnover. They already have a 14-6 lead. DeLucia comes around to get the handoff, but Xavier plays it very well as they strung it out beautifully. And again, it was Valerie Gordiak on the play along with Milton Guzman.
It's almost as if the Firebirds runners are adverse to going out of bounds, because we've seen it with Matthew Sluka and there with Jordan DeLucia. There's no angling out of bounds. It's about putting your foot in the ground and trying to surge forward to pick up a few extra yards. There's one thing about a 2nd and 3rd effort when you're in a scrum, and then it just seems like these runners want to, almost against a defense that might have let up near the sideline, try to take advantage.
3rd down play, Sluka spinning and twisting inside the 30, and he should have enough for the first down. Another nice run by the Kellenberg quarterback.
So much is made of his speed and explosiveness, but if you watch Matthew Sluka closely, you'll also realize how much he runs between the tackles and picks up those tough yards that you'd expect a third down back to pick up in a traditional offense. But Matthew Sluka is that guy for Kellenberg and moves the chains.
1st and 10 for the Firebirds at the 26-yard line. And DeLucia finds a hole and then powers his way down near the 20-yard line.
What a bounce-back year for Jordan DeLucia, who got injured early in his sophomore campaign, came back for the playoffs, contributed in a major way with a $125 rushing last year and a touchdown. Healthy, full season as a junior, #1 rusher in the CHSFL AA division.
See DeLucia's numbers impressive. Over 1,200 yards rushing on the season. Here's Sluka looking to throw, very close to the line of scrimmage when he let that one go. And a penalty flag is down. He might have been past the line of scrimmage when he threw that. And indeed, that's the call.
So an illegal forward pass there by the Firebirds. The target was DeLucia, who can slip out wide. You know, for a guy that's won 21 games in a row, Coach Hannafin doesn't look so happy. You know, every time we've caught him on the sidelines, he doesn't seem so pleased.
That's what makes him so successful, though. He demands a lot from his team and his players.
Final win of the regular season was, or excuse me, the first win of the playoffs was win number 100 for Kevin Hannafin.
It is 3rd down and 9. Loss of down, of course, on that play. Throw comes out to DeLucia, makes the catch, and then drives forward inside the 20-yard line.
Subtle play, DeLucia, but extending the arm right at the end, eyeing the first down marker. And the knee was down, though, prior to that extension. So on first glance, it looked maybe about a half a yard short. But now it's at least a full yard shy of picking up that first down.
So Kellenberg will go for it on 4th down. 4th down and almost 2. And Sluka is hit at the 15-yard line and driven back. I don't think he got there. Xavier might have stopped the Firebirds on that 4th down play. It's close. He had to get inside the 16. And now Kellenberg says they've got it, and they did. That last effort by Sluka, able to get the first down. When he was first hit, he was short.
You know, one of my favorite partners would always say that there's nothing more inexact than the high school spotting of a football. And you're taking an educated guess about the forward progress, and the ball is spotted to the point where the chains can move.
And it is 1st and 10 for Kellenberg. Big 4th down play, and then big defensive play by Milton Guzman, who got penetration.
They put DeLucia in motion, and they went to the inside counter handoff to Frankie Roeder, who was that player last year that filled in so well for DeLucia in the backfield. But Milton Guzman has had a whale of a first half, just beating the offensive line to the backfield and taking care of business with another TFL.
2nd down play, here's a reverse. And Xavier has it played pretty well as DeLucia came around the right side. So Xavier was not fooled on that play. And in on the play, Kevin Connolly, the outside linebacker. Very short pickup. Football at the 14-yard line brings up a 3rd and 8. Clock stopped with 1:02 remaining in the first half.
That was good for DeLucia. We mentioned how this team doesn't seem to like going out of bounds, but he was ragged out of bounds in that occasion and allows the Firebirds to hold on to their 3 timeouts and take a bit more time to the line.
This is Sluka looking to get outside, turns the corner, hits the corner, turns it back in, and takes it in for the touchdown. Another brilliant run by the Kellenberg quarterback, Matt Sluka.
It's the type of run that just breaks a defense. 3rd and 8. And Sluka breaks it for a 14-yard touchdown just when it seems that the Knights had solidified their defense and they had Sluka contained. He still gets to the edge as the extra point is tacked on.
And Kellenberg extends its lead now to 21-6.
You've just allowed Sluka to pick up 4th and 2, and here he is on the outside. A good block by DeLucia, and then Filshie down the field creating the edge. But that's 3 or 4 occasions, if you're Xavier, looking back to say, we could have gotten tackle for a loss. We could have brought him down for a short gain. We could have kept him out of the end zone, and yet Matt Sluka just still finds his way in the end zone, and just the ability to break tackles, but also the vision to keep the play alive. I'm not smart enough to know what he did wrong because he came over to the sideline and Kevin Hannafin had a pretty stern word for him. So I'll just enjoy the elusive run and the touchdown.
And it was quite elusive as he made a couple of outstanding cuts and found his way to pay dirt. It's 21-6 now, and that is a huge score for Kellenberg. Line drive kick. Bounces out of bounds at the 15-yard line. Because this Xavier defense had really done a nice job here against this high-powered Kellenberg offense in the first half. But when you look at the scoreboard now, the Firebirds are up by 2 scores.
Well, it's 3 touchdowns and 4 possessions for the Firebirds, but they were coming off of a series in which they lost 19 yards. And so now you're in a situation where the Knights nearly got a stop. They didn't. They allowed a touchdown. There's just 52 seconds left, even though good field position to start. But the Knights don't really have a up-tempo, hurried offense. And now the Knights are kicking back to Kellenberg to open up the second half. So there was a window there for Xavier to really make a dent. I don't know if they've just lost the opportunity to stay close.
Nice run across the 40-yard line for Matt Geruso. But he stays in bounds and the clock winds. Less than 40 seconds now left in the first half. It'll be 2nd and 5 for the Knights. Frank Burney gets the play and brings it in. And Xavier in no hurry, so more than likely this will be the final play of this first half.
This is an opportunity to use your best home run call.
And keeping it himself is Geruso. He gets out of bounds, but I believe the clock had run out, and that will do it.
More than just a handoff there for Matthew Geruso with the sleight of hand going behind his back. Maybe that deception would have opened up a lane. Not big enough as Kellenberg makes the stop to end the half.
So Kellenberg's offense comes up with 3 scores here in this first half. Xavier made it a game, but the Firebirds are up 21-6 at halftime here on News 12 Varsity's Game of the Week. Welcome back to Mitchell Field here on Long Island, where Kellenberg leads Xavier 21-6 at halftime here in the 2018 New York Catholic League AA championship game. Lou Brogno along with David Resnick, Amanda Puglisi, our entire News 12 varsity team on this cold, windy November afternoon. And Kellenberg with 3 scores. Outstanding possessions in that first half, able to get out to a 2-score lead here at halftime. And this Kellenberg team very successful over the past several years. They won the AA title in 2017, beat Fordham Prep that year, and they have a couple of A titles in their trophy case as well.
Something that we'll say a bit over these next two games as we cover the AA and the AAA is that before 1999, there were only two levels. So that 1987 and 88 titles as designated as an A championship, it was the bottom of two levels. So how you want to describe them, if they're really AA titles, if they're not, we'll leave it for people much smarter than I. But there is one thing that I do know. Last year, Kellenberg, as mentioned, faced Fordham Prep on this field, same environment in the AA championship, and very similar today, the offense of Kellenberg getting off to a tremendous start. Jordan DeLucia went 55 yards down the sideline of the first quarter, 7-0. And then Matthew Sluka, his first of 5, count them 5 rushing touchdowns, 6 on the day. This was 65 yards and a 14-0 lead. Matt Valecci, now a freshman at Boston College, finds Derek Bafano for the touchdown. Fordham Prep kept it close early, but then Dan Wilson, the defensive player of the year in the league, with the sack. And then Kevin Hannafin, who we have not seen happy today, I think in that moment was quite pleased. Gatorade bath, celebration, 54-19 was the final. And this game is starting to trend that way with the Firebirds really beginning to put its stamp offensively on this game as they've scored 3 out of 4 times they've touched it.
Well, the Xavier Knights playing in the championship game here today, and their championship history gives them AA titles in 2012, also in 2015. And in 2015, they defeated Christ the King 28-25, and they've got several A titles, David, to their credit as well, going back to 1979, 89, 96, and 2007.
Again, same caveat, those first 3 A titles, 79, 89, and 96, there were only 2 levels in the Catholic League. So you could see the number of times where the Knights, while they didn't win the overall league championship, they were right on that second tier throughout their long football history.
And again, you're watching the 2018 AA championship game, which is brought to you by Sloman Shield. Shield your home with the Sloman Shield. Call 1-800-ALARM-ME. Halftime, Kellenberg on top 21-6. Back at Mitchell Field, Kellenberg leading Xavier 21-6 here in the New York Catholic League AA championship game. The Firebirds with 21 points in that first half, and they struck quickly, David Resnick, 16 seconds into the game.
They got a fumble recovery on the opening kick. They got the ball right back, and Matt Sluka slithering his way for a 36-yard touchdown just like that. Kellenberg takes the touchdown advantage. They'd add one more in the first quarter as Matt Sluka would find Dan Wilson for the short touchdown. Xavier, though, trailing 14-0, would cap off a 7-minute drive with an Anthony Bruno touchdown, his second in as many weeks, but they could not tack on the extra point as a great special teams play was made by Jake Deacon and company, who would then jar this ball free and allow Paul McGinnis to pick it up. Kellenberg took advantage of a first quarter turnover, made it a touchdown. Matt Sluka does the same in the second quarter, stiff-arming his way into the end zone. PAT good, and in the final minute of the first half, Kellenberg took a 21-6 lead, our halftime score.
You take a look at the AA standings this year. Kellenberg undefeated in the league, of course undefeated overall, working on their 21-game winning streak. Holy Trinity, another outstanding season for them, and Xavier finished third at 7-3.
And this was the East Division, in which they were well represented in the semifinals and in now today's championship game.
And you take a look at the playoff bracket, and Kellenberg with that big win over St. Peter's of Staten Island, 48-14. And Xavier with a 27-0 victory over Xaverian.
And what's interesting, Lou, about this bracket is that we've been talking about Xavier as a number 3 seed. And here they are as a number 4. And they played Xaverian at Aviator. Technically a road game, but they share that home field. And because of the long-standing tradition of Xavier and Fordham Prep on Thanksgiving, and those two schools not playing prior to Turkey Day, the CHSFL rearranged the seedings, and the Knights became a 4 seed in the first round, even though they were the 3rd place team in the East Division. We'll leave those opinions to those that have them. But regardless, we now end up with a Knights team that morphed from a 4 to a 3 in order to preserve that rivalry, and they will once again play Fordham Prep and Xavier, that is, on Thanksgiving for the first time this season.
And today's championship game between Kellenberg and Xavier is brought to you by Sloman Shield. Shield your home with the Sloman Shield. Call 1-800-ALARM-ME. Our score at halftime, Kellenberg 21, Xavier 6. And the second half upcoming shortly here on the News 12 Varsity Game of the Week. Back at Mitchell Field, Kellenberg leading Xavier by the score of 21-6. Glad you could join us here on News 12 Varsity. And also a big shout out to all who are watching on Facebook Live. Would love to hear from you today. So let's check in with Amanda, who's down on the sidelines.
Well, Lou, when we spoke to Coach Stevens, he said that football builds character, and there's always some adversity that every year his teams have to face. But I don't think you would expect that the adversity would be around their playoff schedule now, while most teams really just have to go basically in their own backyard to practice. Well, that's not the case for Xavier. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, it's not so bad. They have to go down to Houston and the West Side Highway at Pier 40 to practice. But in the middle of the week, they actually have to get on a subway and get on the South Ferry to get all the way to Governor's Island to practice. And then he says we have to get our practice in as quickly as possible because we cannot miss the last ferry out, which is at 6:30. So certainly a lot of scheduling that goes into it for Xavier, but it's worth it, he says, if you're going to play in the championship game.
And they are indeed in the championship game here. As you take a look at the series history between these two teams, the last 5 meetings, Kellenberg has dominated the last 3 games, winning earlier this year 47-14, 28-7, 27-7 last year. Xavier won the game in 2016 by the score of 12-0 and then 29-14 in 2015.
Firebirds the last couple of years as these two teams meet in the playoffs for the 2nd consecutive year, really changing more than a decade of history. Xavier for about 13 years and at least 4 games between 2013 and 2016, 2 of which you see right there on your screen when they played in consecutive seasons. Knights really dominated the series, and the 2 head coaches who are friendly with each other. Chris Stevens kind of joked going up against this powerful Kellenberg team once again, even tongue-in-cheek calling them the evil empire for how good they've been over the last couple of years and everybody that they've returned. And Kevin Hannafin, and coaches are always so quick with the retorts, he said, what about those other 13 years when you guys really
Right.
dominated us? And a note about the Firebirds, you know, football coaches not only are tacticians and leaders of men, as they like to say, but they're also pretty quick-witted. When I asked last year, should probably date it there because this is an old comment, Kevin Hannafin about playing at Mitchell Field, which is Kellenberg's home field. It's where they play their home games, and it's definitely, you would think, an advantage to play on this field in a championship game. He said, well, we have to get on a bus too. So it's a much shorter trip, but still transportation needed.
All right, let's check in with Amanda. I know she spoke to both coaches. Let's see what they're up to here in this second half.
Well, Lou, of course, for Coach Stevens, that is not how he wanted Xavier to start the game with the fumble and then, of course, letting Matt Sluka just walk into the end zone. He says we need to be a little bit more disciplined. We need to take care of the ball, especially when there is such a dynamic player like Sluka on the other side. And we saw Coach Hannafin upset for most of that first half, and he just told me that it was because of all of the penalties, as you would imagine. He says we were playing undisciplined football. You know, we had the ball 3 times and we scored we've had the ball 4 times and we scored 3. We cannot be giving Xavier first downs by jumping offside. So he says, look for the Firebirds to be playing a little bit more discipline in the second half.
Yeah, Amanda, Kellenberg had some uncharacteristic penalties in that first half. A couple of offsides on the line of scrimmage. They also had a illegal forward pass beyond the line of scrimmage. And, of course, a intentional grounding penalty as well. And you can see it is a blanket day here at Mitchell Field. But that's not unusual here. Very windy and cold here in mid-November. Ski caps in order, gloves, you name it. It is a frosty day.
I've come to learn that Mitchell Field is a place that even when it's warm, it's still cold.
That's true.
The swirling winds of Mitchell Field. A couple of years ago when Stepanak played the first ever state championship game in the AAA, they had Canisius of the Monsignor Martin League in the Buffalo area of the state, and a kid kicked a 60-yard field goal with the wind. I mean, that's the type of environment that you're potentially dealing with. And for a couple of teams that run the ball, the wind doesn't have as much of an effect that I think it could have in our next game in the AAA final. But you always know that if you're coming out to a game here, you better be bundled up and ready.
You saw that wind, and the real heroes today, of course, are our cameramen who are on the rooftop here at Mitchell Field. I was visiting with them prior to the game, and
you wish them luck.
You think it's cold down on the field? Go up on the roof.
I'll take your word for it.
You got to hold on to the railing when you're up there. Wind will blow you right off. So here we go. Second half ready to begin in this AA championship. Xavier kicking right to left here to Kellenberg. And DeLucia fields it and just runs out of bounds with it at the 27-yard line. And kind of ironic, David, you had mentioned in the first half that these Kellenberg running backs don't want to go out of bounds, except on that kickoff return, DeLucia just ran right out of bounds.
I can't believe I just witnessed that.
It was kind of odd, actually. At the 27-yard line, the Firebirds will put it in play.
Save the pounding for offense. I think that's what we're learning here.
Yeah. DeLucia had an outstanding first half. Terrific season, over 1,200 yards rushing. Matt Sluka had a big first half as well. And he now comes up in the gun. 1st and 10. Quick pass outside to Frankie Roeder, who twists away from a couple of defenders across the 30-yard line. And he picks up about 3 or 4.
Kevin Connolly, the rover, part of that linebacking crew, making the stop, coming over on the short completion to Frankie Roeder.
Pickup of about 4. 2nd down and 6. And off. Here's DeLucia. And he turns it in and spins out at the 35. Good job by Xavier along the line of scrimmage. It brings up a 3rd down. 3rd down and 2 for the Firebirds at the 35-yard line. Kellenberg trying to win their 22nd straight game. And looking to push their record this season to 11-0. Right now they have a 2-score lead, but a long way to go. Just underway here in the 3rd quarter. Matt Sluka throws over the middle. Nice execution. That's a big first down for the Firebirds. Sean Boley on the catch. Sean Bowl, excuse me.
It's been timely passes for Sluka, whether it be the touchdown to Wilson or this 3rd down conversion to Bowl.
Senior Sean Bowl on that reception. Makes a nice grab over the middle. And here's a nice hole off of right tackle for Jordan DeLucia. And he picks up good yardage into Xavier territory at the 48-yard line. Good job by the right side of that offensive line. Elias Baltus, the senior right guard at 260. Tom Sapola, 6'4", 243, the right tackle. Second down. And about 7, pickup of 3 on that last play. Here's Sluka, finds another seam, and then just takes it right up the gut across the 45 down to the 42-yard line.
With a running attack like we've seen, Matthew Sluka and Jordan DeLucia, a lot of times you don't need Matthew Mangelli, the best receiver for Kellenberg, 5th best in the CHSFL in receiving yards, had a huge game in the regular season against Xavier and hasn't been a factor yet. I don't even think he's been thrown to because Kellenberg has been so efficient with their ground game.
Over 450 yards receiving this year from Mangelli. And this time, not much yardage for Sluka as he dives ahead to the 40-yard line.
And you also know that receivers are at a disadvantage for 2 reasons. One, the running attack is so good, and they score so quickly, and they're up by so much that Matthew Mangelli and some of these other players in another system, if a running attack wasn't as good as it was, if they weren't winning by the type of margins in which they have, would get better numbers. But Coach Hannafin just talked about really the team approach and the way that everybody just does their part.
DeLucia breaks a tackle. There's a penalty flag down. And DeLucia still dragging defenders with him across the 35-yard line. But again, there is a flag down across the field, and this one probably going against Kellenberg. Indeed, it's holding. So that'll wipe out that nice run by DeLucia. And brings the football all the way back to midfield. (21-6), 8 minutes and 56 seconds remaining in the third quarter. Trip receivers go wide to the left, and twins wide to the right. Now DeLucia goes in motion. He gets the handoff, coming around, and cuts it back across the 45-yard line to the 43 or so.
Back to the original line of scrimmage. Picking up 9 yards on that jet sweep to Jordan DeLucia. Do they try to target Mangelli here? He's lined up with 3 receivers to the bottom of the formation.
Kevin Hannafin looks on, and here's Sluka looking to throw, rolling out right side, steps up, he's going long, and goes for Mangelli, touchdown, Kellenberg. Well, that answers your question, David Resnick.
Even a broken clock is correct twice a day.
Mangelli open, and Sluka fired a strike. Beautiful throw by Sluka.
And Mangelli making it count. If you're going to be targeted once, it might as well be for a shot down the field for a touchdown.
Extra point attempt is good. 7:52 remaining here in this third quarter. And Kellenberg extends its lead to 28-6.
Keep running your routes. Keep being professional in what you're doing, and eventually your quarterback will find you one-on-one matchup over the middle, and that is advantage Mangelli. Right at the goal line for the touchdown, and I've been watching him the last couple of plays. He's still running hard. He's still taking care of his blocking assignments. That's the sign of a mature senior understanding. Eventually, my number's going to be called, and I'm going to be ready to reel it in and extend the lead. And Matthew Mongelli was part of such an impressive junior class that stormed onto the scene last year and won a championship, part of the returning firepower for the Firebirds.
How'd you like that nonchalant reaction by Mongelli after the catch? It was like, yeah, I got it. Touchdown.
He acted like he's been there before. That's one of AP's favorite lines.
Xavier will take over on the short kick again across the 30-yard line. They'll put it at the 33. That's where the officials will mark it. So Xavier will try to get this single wing offense cranked up, down 28-6.
Now, do you mean cranked up like fired up and getting to go, or actually cranked like it was an old clock? I was unsure what you were trying to allude to there.
I think they want to get it cranked up towards the end zone. 1st and 10. And Matt Caruso keeps it. Nowhere to go. Kellenberg strings it out beautifully. Dan Wilson in on the tackle from his middle linebacker position.
Back to the last possession for Kellenberg. They've now scored 4 out of 5 times. They score right before halftime, first possession after halftime, and for a defense that had not allowed a point in 3 games, Kellenberg has put up 28 against a Knight defense that was rolling.
Seven minutes left, third quarter. Kellenberg in control at the moment. Xavier with a second down and about 13. A little misdirection, nice spin, and a nice run for Kevin Connolly, who picks up good yardage. Well, picked up about 3 or 4 on that carry, so he gets back close to the original line of scrimmage, and it brings up a 3rd and 11. Connolly, senior 4-back, as he's listed in this single wing offense.
So he acts as the wing back, lined up, angled, just over what is a tight end on the strong side of the formation.
This is Caruso looking for a block, and Kellenberg again plays it beautifully on the corner. Nowhere to go, and strung out nicely by Anthony Bradshaw, junior linebacker. So 4th and 11.
It was Caruso, and just not enough hat on hat for Xavier to clear a hole.
Dan Wilson there as well on the tackle, and the Knights punted away. Short kick across the 50-yard line, and Kellenberg has tremendous field position to begin this drive, already up 28-6.
I mean, this is a must stop for Xavier. Not saying anything completely enlightening, and not saying anything that is so earth-shattering, but with the way that Kellenberg has been humming offensively, Xavier is not equipped to score quickly, and you're only dealing with about a quarter and a half left. And if you give up a score here, you're now trailing by 4 touchdowns.
DeLucia. And Xavier plays it well at the line of scrimmage. No gain on that play. Well, Kellenberg has dropped 28 on a defense that had come into this game pitching 3 straight shutouts.
Not a smile yet, but we might get one by the end. I think football coaches, just as a group, are just typically unhappy.
Second down. Sluka kind of weaves his way through the defense into Xavier territory. Gets down to about the 46 or so.
So this has been the challenge for Xavier. They've been okay on first and second down, but can they get the third down stop? If you remember 2 possessions ago, Matt Sluka scoring on 3rd down and 8. Last possession, throwing a pass over the top on 3rd down and 9. Can they get their defense off the field and make a stop against Matthew Sluka?
So it is 3rd and about 6. Sluka rolling out, right side on the run. Now he steps up, fires long, as a man wide open at the 5-yard line and in for the touchdown. It is Sean Bowl on the catch. He takes it in for another Kellenberg score.
Another touchdown for Matthew Sluka. 3rd passing touchdown of the afternoon to 3 different receivers. Dan Wilson, Matthew Mungelli, and the most recent Sean Bowl.
Extra point kick is no good. So it is 34-6, Kellenberg.
Last year, it was about Matthew Sluka's legs. 5 rushing touchdowns, 6 in total. Today, it's been more about that cannon of a right arm piercing through the wind, although he throws this one with the wind to Sean Bowl with his feet set. Throws a strike over the top of the defense. 5 more touchdowns for Matthew Sluka today. 3 through the air, 2 on the ground, and another senior making a play. This senior class, they went 5-1 as freshmen. As sophomores, they won a JV championship going 9-2. They are a perfect 21-0 as varsity players. So in their 4 years, they're 35-3. And while they were winning a JV championship as sophomores, the varsity was going 1-8. Their arrival to this level completely changed the fortunes for the Firebirds the last 2 years.
Kickoff kept on the ground, recovered by Xavier at the 48-yard line.
And
the Knights recovering Anthony Barone.
And you're talking about an historic class. The juniors, the now seniors who were juniors last year, they were part of, with Matthew Sluka on the left, Jordan DeLucia, a junior on the right, they were part of the only team in Kellenberg history to go undefeated. And so many of them came back, and they're about to do it again. You talk about living up to expectations and taking care of what everybody else is predetermined for you is going to be your future. It's one thing, Lou, to have the expectations. It's another thing week by week by week over the course of an 11-week season to take care of each and every opponent along the way. They've beaten all but one by double digits in this run.
Trying to put together back-to-back undefeated championship seasons. Quite a run by the Firebirds. Xavier trying to make something happen here, down 34-6. And this is a program with a lot of pride under their head coach, Chris Stevens. You know they're going to try to put a positive mark here on the final quarter plus here. Second and 8. Football right at the midfield stripe. This is Bruno. Anthony Bruno just tripped up as he started to make the turn. Dan Wilson over to make the tackle.
Dan Wilson is just in the middle of so many plays, reigning Defensive Player of the Year. So Kellenberg had the Offensive and Defensive Player of the Year last year in the league. They were both juniors. They're back as seniors. Saluka and Wilson leading their respective units. Wilson with a first-half touchdown as a tight end. I mean, this team had the markings of greatness entering this season, and they're 14 minutes away from stamping another perfect year.
Third down play, Bruno in trouble, brought down behind the line of scrimmage. Excellent play for Kellenberg. Coming in was Paul McGinnis, who got penetration and absolutely blew that play up.
Xavier looking to throw on 3rd and long, and Anthony Bruno just never had the chance to really set his feet. And as he tried to step up into the pocket and slip away from McGinnis, he could not. And McGinnis is somebody who saw time last year and has played a bigger role as a senior again, part of that 12th grade class that's made a huge impact for Kellenberg.
On a 4th down play, Xavier punts it away, and it is downed at about the 27-yard line. Kellenberg will put it in play there, up 34-6 with 1:15 seconds, 1:14 remaining here in this 3rd quarter. Firebirds come out behind their senior quarterback, Matt Saluka. Tremendous day for him. Now has 14 touchdown passes on the year, 22 rushing touchdowns. DeLucia looking for a block, cuts it back in, and DeLucia puts his head down and barrels into 3 defenders and pushes the pile across the 40-yard line.
That's a 13-yard gain because Jordan DeLucia, even as a young player, understands running with patience and also pace. He slowed himself down to make a cut, to get back up the field, and to pick up those few extra yards. I think a lot of times younger players are 100 miles per hour at all times, and they don't understand the idea of a change of pace.
DeLucia again gets the handoff. This time he's hit at the line of scrimmage. Drives forward for maybe a yard or so.
See, that play, I think, Lou, probably even goes closer to about 2.5, 3, because he hesitated hitting the hole. A younger running back gets the ball, crashes right into the line, but he at least allowed the hole to develop just enough. And when you start chunking together, now this has been a big play offense, so they don't need it, but when you start chunking together 2-3 yards at a time, opens up the playbook. 2nd and 3rd down become much more manageable.
And he did pick up about 3 or so on that carry. And that will end the 3rd quarter. Kellenberg 1 quarter away from back-to-back titles and another undefeated season. Right now, they're in complete command. Score after 3. Kellenberg up 34-6 over Xavier. And the Firebirds 1 quarter away on the News 12 Varsity Game of the Week. Welcome back to the News 12 Varsity Game of the Week. Brought to you by Sloman Shield. And here goes Jordan DeLucia. He's going to take it all the way. Touchdown, Kellenberg. So Jordan DeLucia takes it all the way on the first play from scrimmage of the 4th quarter. And he didn't give me an opportunity to say that the game is brought to you by Sloman Shield. Shield your home with the Sloman Shield. Call 1-800-ALARM-ME.
They're young, Lou. They don't understand that nothing comes between you and a sponsor, okay? They'll figure it out.
Jordan DeLucia taking it all the way for the score. And the Firebirds have put up 40 points, looking for point 41 here on the extra point. Kick is up. It is good. 11:43 remaining in the 4th. Kellenberg up big, 41-6.
Moments ago, we were talking about Jordan DeLucia's patience, but how about his all-out speed? Bouncing it to the outside, a stiff arm, and he is off to the races. 53 yards to pay dirt. Keeping his balance even after a little love tap. Don't worry, Jordan. You don't need the flag. You're about to get the trophy.
It has been all Kellenberg in this championship game. This is the AA title game. And a reminder, the AAA championship game coming up a little bit later. Kickoff a little after 5 p.m. Hope you'll be with us for that one. Terrific matchup. Archbishop Stepanak going up against Cardinal Hayes. Those two teams played earlier this season. It was a 23-20 victory for Stepanak. And we expect more of the same in that AAA title game. Anthony Bruno on the kickoff return takes it up across the 35 to the 37.
Second half last year in the championship game, Kellenberg pitched the shutout. It was 33-0 against Fordham Prep after halftime in the AA championship. Kellenberg a 20-0 shutout in this second half against Xavier, the arch rival of Fordham Prep. Last year was a close game at halftime. Today, Kellenberg with a bit more breathing room at the break as they've cruised into the second half.
And on a first down carry, Matt Girusso carries up across the 45. Well, talking to head coach Chris Stevens last night, really enjoyed that conversation. And Coach Stevens was talking about the single wing offense, which he put in. He put this offense in 2006, changed to the single wing after they had had a terrible season. And you got to love talking to Coach Stevens last night. He said, he said to himself, we've got to do something here. And he went to the single wing offense. And in 2007, they went 10-1, scored 410 points the first year.
And that 2007 year is what he would call a Triple Crown year. They look at Xavier as the year being in three distinct parts: regular season, division title, playoffs, a championship, Thanksgiving, Fordham Prep. They took care of everything that year, and the single wing since that season has stuck.
Penalty against the Knights, and that'll back them up.
You want to talk about a guy with some one-liners. Chris Stevens graduated from Xavier in 1983, has been with the program for 28 years, coaching his alma mater. And we got him where I think a lot of people do their best thinking, on the ride home. He had nowhere to go but to talk to us, and had just such wonderful insight and things to say about the game and his program as well.
It's a second down and 9, and handoff goes off tackle. Demetriades carried the football. He takes it up near the 45. And there's Dan Vitterberga, who did not play in this championship game. A 1,000-yard rusher, 1,141 yards rushing to be exact, 20 touchdowns. Terrific season for that young man. I know it must eat him up that he wasn't able to participate in this final here today.
Third in rushing yards in the CHSFL, tied for first in touchdowns with Matt Sluka entering today's game. And he hurt himself very early in the Xaverian playoff game, completely missed the semifinals against Holy Trinity, and Chris Stevens was hoping to get the good word this week. But Vitterberga just couldn't get cleared, couldn't pass the test, and so going up against this stern challenge against Kellenberg, they did so without one of their best offensive players.
Fourth down upcoming for Xavier It'll be 4th down and 1. Football at the 48-yard line. 8 minutes and 45 seconds. Counting down here in the 4th quarter. And penalty flag is thrown. It'll be a legal procedure against the Knights. So that significantly changes things here. It'll be 4th and 6.
Chris Stevens talked about implementing the offense by first buying a whole lot of resources. And I think he said the final $100 of the $700 he spent in 2006 money, I mean, who knows how much that costs in modern day coin, was on the single wing. And the more he watched and the more he understood, he thought that was the solution. And now Xavier, week in and week out, with one of the most interesting offenses, a type of preparation from the Kellenberg standpoint that said it's different than every other week. Typically, our scout team, we can hold up a card, they can run a play, no problem. This week, or going into a game against Xavier, the scout team has to spend a lot of time with the coaching staff just to understand the system better, to be able to properly prepare the first teamers to go up against it.
Matt Sluka brings his Firebirds up on a 1st down play, and the handoff off tackle to Jordan DeLucia. And he spins across the 20-yard line. Kellenberg just looking to bring the clock with them right here as the Firebirds are on their way to another championship. They're up 41-6.
Chris Stevens with his squad huddled together. You know, what's interesting is usually you get to a championship and that would be it. In the AAA, in fact, it's not it, because there's a state championship to play. And in this instance, win, lose, or draw, Kellenberg's done today. But for Xavier, they've got Thanksgiving, so there's still something to play for, keeping everything sharp and making sure everybody's healthy.
Sluka trying to get outside. And with that said, for Kellenberg, the final game today for their tremendous quarterback, Matt Sluka. What a career he has had for the Firebirds. Tremendous senior season.
And a lot can be made of what you do in defeat and how you handle yourself in a lopsided game, even with emotions riding high. Programs gain their reputations, Lou, sometimes in wins or a lot in victories, but also what happens when things don't go your way. So I think part of the message from Chris Stevens was making sure everybody keeps their head at this point of the game.
3rd down for Kellenberg. And DeLucia puts the brakes on and is finally hemmed in. Kevin Connolly with a nice defensive play for Xavier as he stayed home and read that play beautifully.
Punting for just the 2nd time today.
Yeah, brings up 4th and 7. They'll punt it away. Sluka drops back into punt formation. Just under 6 minutes now left here in the 4th quarter. Kellenberg cruising towards the AA championship. Short kick across the 50-yard line, and it rolls across the 40. Good roll for the Firebirds, and it will be downed at the 36.
That is typically against the wind, and it still took a Kellenberg bounce, starting Xavier inside of its own 40-yard line.
So football at the 36-yard line, 5.5 left in the 4th.
You know, there was definitely hope from the Knights' standpoint, beating Holy Trinity in the semifinals, a Titans team that beat the Knights in the regular season, and hoping to duplicate that type of reversal. Xavier lost to Kellenberg during the regular season in week 3, 47-14. Unfortunately for the Knights, in the rematch, not only is it about a similar game, but it will be a similar result.
And keeping not much there for Matt Girusso.
You know, and for Kellenberg, coming into today, that 21-game winning streak, their only non-double figure win was earlier this year, just a 1-point victory over St. Peter's, a school that was previously in the AAA for quite a while. Their average game during this winning streak, 40-13. And so to see a 41-6 score, that's, Lou, right in line with 2 years of utter dominance for this Kellenberg team.
2nd and 11 for Xavier. Girusso, and he goes down behind the line of scrimmage. Not much running room.
Did not see a way out.
He loses 3 on that play. Nice play there by Shane Cameron, junior defensive lineman. 4 minutes, 20 seconds, and the clock is moving.
See some sprinkling in of some younger players, some reserves on defense. This is Jake Deacon trotting off. He came up with a couple of big plays, a block on special teams of a PAT, and caused a hit that resulted in a fumble.
Girusso, again, nowhere to go. Kellenberg defense now just swarming at the line of scrimmage.
It's as if one by one Kellenberg is making substitutions to allow their starters to come off. Louis Robustelli, a senior, seeing some action. Alon Telford getting checked out. Zacharias Estrella, another senior, was just subbed off the game.
And the Knights kick it away. Took some good Xavier roll all the way down to the 11-yard line. And Kellenberg will have the football there with 2:57 remaining here in the game. And Kellenberg on top, 41-6.
Want to talk about playing your best in the biggest moments. Matt Sluka, 6 touchdowns a year ago. This year, 5 touchdowns. Just playing at a different level. And Lou, are you familiar with the transitive property at all? You look like a mathematician. You know, if A is greater than B and B is greater than C, then A is greater than C. We need more of a visual here, but work with me here. If Kellenberg beat Chaminade and Chaminade beat Stepanak, if Stepanak wins the AAA coming up next against Cardinal Hayes, is Kellenberg better than Stepanak and the overall champion in this mythological sports transitive property example that I just came up with?
Well, it's good for a lot of discussion anyway.
How about 2 minutes and 20 seconds worth?
Another big run, by the way, for Jordan DeLucia as he continues to add to his numbers. 1st and 10, Kellenberg.
The larger point is that Kellenberg was good enough to beat a team that beat a AAA finalist.
And inside 2 minutes here, looks as if the Firebirds are in the victory formation. And indeed they are. Sluka takes a knee.
They picked up that first down. Don't think Xavier will use any of their timeouts remaining. And when you get inside of the 2 minutes, you could start playing, just drain the play clock, and we got ourselves a smile.
There you go. It's a big smile, too. And why not? His team is going to finish up back-to-back undefeated championship seasons. Great run here by the Firebirds.
Nick Rapoli joins the huddle, a senior wide receiver. Gets to spend the final moments of this championship game on the field.
Less than a minute left. And Sluka takes the knee. The celebration begins. One of the assistant coaches got the ice bath on the sideline for Kellenberg. Not exactly what you're looking forward to on a day like today here at Mitchell Field.
If you're prepared and you expect to win, you should come insulated. Pneumonia is worth it if you win.
25 seconds left. And the Kellenberg fans are on their feet. They begin their celebration.
And the biggest bucket of all might be saved for the head man.
And that's it. Kellenberg celebrates, and he does get it over the head with the ice. Does Kevin Hannafin. Matt Sluka caps off his brilliant career with another championship. Kellenberg defeats Xavier 41-6. The Firebirds finish this 2018 season 11-0. They win their 22nd straight game and back-to-back titles.
They become the first AA program since 2002-2003 when Christ the King went back-to-back in AA. And what a special moment when you think about the celebration. So much of it, players only. They went right around their head coach and made sure that Kevin Hannafin was in the middle of that mosh pit. If there's anything you need to know about that program and that coach and the winning they've done over the last 2 years, we just saw it right there.
So they will receive the Joe Lamas Memorial Trophy. Kellenberg wins it 41-6. And the Firebirds finish an undefeated season. So Kellenberg wins it big. They win back-to-back titles. Welcome back to the News 12 Varsity Game of the Week. Today's AA Catholic League Championship game brought to you by the Sloman Shield. Shield your home with the Sloman Shield. Call 1-800-ALARM-ME. And Kellenberg wins it big 41-6, and as you can imagine, plenty of plays to choose from for the News 12 Varsity play of the game.
Kellenberg recovers the opening kickoff. Xavier fumbles it. Opening play from scrimmage. Matthew Sluka, 36 yards to the end zone. That set the tone for Kellenberg. As the Firebirds went up 7-0 early, they would score the first 14 points of the game. And a lot to cheer about if you're the Firebirds supporter and thinking of Matthew Sluka. 9-2 as a sophomore JV championship. 11-0 AA title as a junior. Senior season, 11 victories, no defeats, and another title. Matthew Sluka, who was last year's offensive most outstanding player with 6 touchdowns, follows it up with 5 more today. An outstanding performance leading his team on offense, but leading his team to victory and being just an unstoppable force for 2 years at the varsity AA level.
And one of the seniors on this team, Matt Mungelli, who had a touchdown reception in this championship game, raises the trophy high as he sees his team in his senior year win this AA championship for the 2nd straight season. And Amanda Puglisi is now standing by with our News 12 Varsity Player of the Game. Amanda?
So, Matt, with about 30 seconds left, the celebration started on the sidelines, but you guys were still on the field. You were in a huddle. What did you say to your teammates there?
Nothing. It just came down to, 2 years of playing with these guys, 22-0. These are my brothers. The last thing we said, we're a family, and nothing else, matters. That's it. So that's it. We're champions, 22-0.
You've had success basically on every level since you started at Kellenberg. Kellenberg, but last year, did you really think 22-0 and 2 consecutive titles was possible?
Definitely, everyone hopes 22-0 is definitely the goal. Coming into this summer, we knew there was going to be a lot of work to do, a lot of people to make up for. It came down to everyone working hard, everyone, doing their jobs, and that was the ultimate goal, and we did it.
Coming into today, Xavier had pitched 3 shutouts. You guys put up 41. How's this offense do it?
It's ridiculous. We average over 40 points a game, so we knew we were coming to this game with our offense coming in hot. Big games last week, the week before. Ever since we played these guys the first time, in practice, we knew what we had. We knew what we had to do, and that's it. Everything worked.
All right, Matt, congratulations. I think your teammates are waiting for you.
Yep, sounds good. Thank you.
All right, guys, back to you.
All right, Amanda. Matt Sluka delivers his team to a championship, well over 2,000 yards of total offense in his senior season. Kellenberg wins it big. And upcoming at 5 o'clock, a tremendous AAA Catholic League championship game as the Cardinals of Cardinal Hayes take on the Crusaders of Archbishop Stepanak. And again, that kickoff just shortly after 5 o'clock. We'll be on the air at 5 o'clock from Mitchell Fields Athletic Complex. Hope you can join us, Hayes and Stepanak, for the AAA championship. And that'll do it here from Mitchell Field in this AA championship game. And then a reminder, the News 12 Varsity Game of the Week, the AA Final, was brought to you by Sloman Shield. Shield your home with the Sloman Shield. Call 1-800-ALARM-ME. Once again, your final score, Kellenberg 41, Xavier 6. The Firebirds are 2018 AA champs.